What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to Ideal Offseason. This is the series where I put the GM cap on for a little bit and help a team navigate through their offseason. Now, we try to keep this series as realistic as possible, right? Meaning we take a look at each individual team and figure out what's kind of the best course of action to leave them in a better spot by the end of the offseason. If you're the Washington Wizards, you weren't a very good team this last year, but you got some interesting young guys, and you're trying to develop them and help them get better, so we'd help you do that. If you're the Lakers, you got Luka and LeBron, you're trying to win a title, right? So we're going to help you try to do that. And today we've got the Atlanta Hawks, a team that's unfortunately kind of just been playing in the middle somewhere between those other two options for a while now. And so what we're going to do today is go through their roster. We're going to talk about their salary cap space, what kind of draft picks they're working with. We're going to build a strategy so that we can make some realistic trades, go through the draft, do free agency using realistic numbers and scenarios, all to better help the Atlanta Hawks go through the offseason. And before we go and do that, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. As always, go watch the other Ideal off seasons here. They're there for you, ready to watch. And yeah, I just appreciate the viewership, y'all. The channel's been growing like crazy. But anyway, let's talk about the Hawks. And that brings us back here to the Ideal Offseason spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that I built to kind of help articulate and visualize the story that is Ideal Offseason. You can actually get access to this spreadsheet if you want. It's really, really simple. Just go down into the description of this video and you're going to see a link to join my Discord. If you hop on there, it's completely free to do so. You'll go to the announcements channel and there will be a download link for this spreadsheet there. It's free. Mess around with it. Post whatever you make on the Discord. We're having a good time on there. There's a ton of people on the Discord nowadays. There are so many. I had to bring some mods on, but that's actually been really helpful, so I've been happy about that. But anyway, Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks, much like my Chicago Bulls, have just kind of been riding in the middle of the East for a while now. We all remember that little playoff run where Trae Young was doing the like ice cold Trae celebrations as they beat the Knicks or whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of sick. That was awesome. And since then, they've just kind of struggled to really find some relevancy. And they've dealt with some injuries along the way. Certain guys coming and going from the team, but this last year, there were some interesting revelations, right? Well, first, they got the number 1 overall pick, and they took Zachary Reese-Shea, who, I mean, when I was evaluating this draft class, I was like, there's Sar and him, they're kind of the same player, and I still kind of view them as, like, not the same player, like, exactly, obviously, I'm saying, like, in terms of, like, oh, yeah, they're both, like, kind of, like, the same amount of good, I'm describing this in a horrible way, I'm so sorry, but it's been a long day, it's been a long week, but, I was really happy with Reese-Shea. He started off the year like not that great, and he kind of figured it out. We'll talk more about him later. But so you've got a young guy here. You've got a young guy in Jalen Johnson that's starting to come into his own, but he got hurt last year. You discovered Dyson Daniels is a defensive monster, right? You started giving Onyeka Okongwu a little bit more burn, and so there's kind of this like, okay, we were thinking maybe we might have to trade Trae Young because we just haven't been able to put something around him, but maybe we're starting to build towards something. We can't quite tell right now, and so that's what we're going to kind of try to figure out in this video today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over their current roster, decisions we have to make, just talk about what's going on with the team. Then we're going to go over their salary cap situation. We'll go over their draft picks after that. And then we'll kind of build out the strategy of how we're going to try to attack this team this year. I encourage you guys to watch this portion of the video because it's important. It gives you a lot of missing context and it'll prevent you from looking like a dum-dum in the comments. But anyway, let's start off with the roster here. If you guys are new to the series, which I know about 66% of you are on average, what are these numbers right here? These are EPM numbers. They stand for estimated plus minus. That basically is a really, really advanced statistic that we have in basketball that gives you a numeric value as to how good somebody is at offense, defense, and then overall as a basketball player. We then, or I should say, take that number and index it against the rest of the NBA players so that you can get a 0 to 100 score as to how good they are compared to everybody else. I always say stats never tell the complete story. You need context, you need rationale to explain everything by there because there's just a lot of things that influence numbers that we can't capture. But overall, this is a really, really cool stat. I encourage you to go read about it. It's really interesting. So first person first, Trae Young. Awesome basketball player, right? I think we all know that. It is no surprise to see him at a 96, 97th percentile. 100 would be the best offensive player in the NBA, by the way. 0 would be the worst. And all the way down here, defense as a 3. And that's where I already hear Hawks fans being like, EVC, the Trae Young did so much better defensively last year. He did. He's been really, really bad at defense throughout his career, and it last year, like scheme-wise, what he's doing, he's playing passing lanes, stuff like that, really like going over those switches and everything, like he's working his ass off. Unfortunately, you just get taken advantage of when you're smaller sometimes, and the stat does grab a bunch of different things to kind of help compile this defensive thing, and unfortunately, Trae Young just probably won't ever be a good defender because of his size, and that just is what it is. You kind of have to put some defenders around him, and that's how it's going to be. But overall, he's an awesome basketball player. He can do so much for you offensively, as you can tell. He can really carry the load. Awesome player. Jalen Johnson was a rising star this kind of last year. Who knows if he'll ever be all-star good, but he was kind of in that most improved player conversation, despite some of his shooting efficiency still not being the best. There's a lot to like in his game, and that's why you're seeing these pretty solid numbers all the way around. Unfortunately, he got hurt last year and he was out for the season, so probably your second best player in the team was down right off the bat, which sucks. Terrence Mann, third most expensive guy in this team, wow, was a guy that you got via the Bogdanovich trade, so you brought him in. Terrence Mann is someone that, not a huge fan of personally. I love the energy he brings and everything, and I'm going to direct you over to some of his numbers because shooting, percentage wise, he's actually more than competent. He's a pretty average offensive NBA player. He's never going to break you down or anything like that, but he's going to be competent on there. I think some people are going to be surprised to see how low his defensive stat is, and there's a reason for that. Off ball, he's actually a pretty good defender. I don't think it should be this low. I find it hard to believe that he's the 16th percentile defensively because, I think off ball he's a pretty good defender. On ball, I think he's pretty rough, in all honesty. When I watch it, and look, maybe Hawks fans will think differently. I'm just going to tell you, you're incorrect. As a guy that does this professionally, that's watching him do on-ball defense, it's incorrect a lot of the times. I promise you, we all know what scheme they're trying to run. It's not what he's supposed to be doing. And he's had trouble with that throughout his career, and that's okay. He makes a bit too much money for me. I know the Hawks kind of like him, though, so I don't know. We're not sure if we're going to be keeping him around or not. I wouldn't be mad if we did, but it's whatever. Onyeka Okongwu here, a younger center that they've kind of just had waiting in the wings for a while. Finally gave him the start after the Clint Capella situation, which for those of you curious about Clint Capella, they never benched him because of his play. He was hurt a lot this last year and he was talking extensions with them. I've actually talked to some people close to this, so I can just tell you kind of what happened with this is he got to a point where he went and sat down with the team and he's like, you guys aren't probably going to give me this extension that I want, huh? And they're like, probably not. And he was like, okay, I'm a little bit banged up. Can you guys just kind of start to shut me down for the year so that I can be ready for free agency and I can figure something out after that? And apparently very mutual thing. And they're like, nope, yep, that's totally fine. We'll see what's going on with Big O. And we'll get some other guys on the court. A lot of respect between those two parties. So awesome, right? So Onyeka Okongwu gets some more burn. Offensively, he does what he does. Started to hit a few more threes at points during the year. Still probably takes a bit too many mid-range shots overall. Defensively struggles at times if he's not just blocking a shot. He's a little bit undersized for a center. It's not horrible, it's just you bigger if you could, right? Defensively just has to be in better position, and it's worth noting this team just wasn't very good defensively last year, so he's going to be asked to do more and he's going to get put in rougher situations. That's the context behind numbers that we have to say. I would say if maybe you put a better defense around him, you'd have a pretty average defensive player. So that's just how I would look at it. Reese Shea, first overall pick last year, started off the season pretty rough, got hurt for a little bit, and then he came back much better. And that's actually pretty common when something like that happens. Someone that just gets thrown into a new level of basketball, they're kind of freaking out, trying to figure out what to do. Very, very common. Don't expect every young player to be phenomenal right away. We all have too slow of an attention span, or is that the right way to put it? Too short of an attention span, and we want people to just be good right away so that we can move on to the next person, and that's not how it works. Development takes a lot of time. But when you have that time when you're hurt to just kind of sit, watch, and listen for a little bit, you come back better. A lot of the shooting improved for him. We still got to get better at going to the rim and stuff like that. But you see the good athlete. You see a guy that can be a really good spot-up shooter and play off of Trae. Didn't have a great defensive season, but I think he'll get better. I think he's going to get stronger and faster, and I think he's going to be a nice player. I don't know if he'll ever be an all-star. That's not really how I evaluated him when I was doing that last season, but I think he's going to be a good basketball player, so I think you should be excited about him. Georges Niang, he's going to shoot the ball really well offensively and then be really slow and kind of funny to watch on defense. That's all you kind of got to know about him. But he does have a role, man. He's tough and he's going to try to fight people, so that's cool. Dyson Daniels, team option here. So definitely accepting that option. You got to work on an extension for this guy right away. One of the best defensive players in basketball. 98.3 on the percentile rating right there, which is pretty nuts. Obviously, the steal god, just getting everything. He knows how to navigate ball screens, like, I feel like better than anyone else in the NBA right now. Like, a lot of people know how to do it. He just executes it so much better than everyone else, and I think that's what makes him probably the most valuable defensively. It is just hard to screen the dude. He knows how to get skinny and get around people. So great for him. Offensively, still some stuff to work on. We were a lot better at getting to the rim and finishing than we were in other seasons, like in New Orleans. So we like that. The shooting percentages still just haven't come around. Bad free throw shooter, things like that. So once we start to work on those things, and hopefully we get better at them, you're gonna have a really nice player. Kobe Buffkin, what we've seen him play like 20 NBA games in 2 seasons, running out of patience for him. I can't evaluate any of these stats because he's hardly played any basketball. He's got a team option, so why the hell not? But I haven't seen anything of this guy. I wasn't very high on him as a prospect to start out with, and I don't know. I'm not positive he's going to make it through this video just because the injuries are rough and I feel bad for him, but we want to be solid this year if we can. All right, on to Vit. I never know how to say his last name, but big ball handler type of guy. That sounds crazy how I just put that, but you know what it is. Not completely guaranteed contract, only 1.5 million guaranteed. I'm just going to guarantee the whole thing because he's a really good offensive player, pretty solid on the defensive end as well in terms of like getting rebounds, steal percentages. His assist numbers are always really good when he's out there. He's a great passer. Probably should have a bigger role in the team. Younger guy, kind of getting better. I'd like to see him as more of like a backup, kind of different type of point guard than when Trae Young's in the game. You don't have to play him a ton of minutes, but I think it's worth exploring. But yeah, I think his offensive game can be really, really valuable to this team. Next, Mo Gay, one of my favorite players in the NBA right now. I love this guy. Just energy guy to the moon. Like, he's not going to shoot well or do anything like that, but he'll finish around the rim. He plays with a lot of energy, and like his like steal and block percentages and rebound percentages are crazy. Just ultimate utility guy. Good size. What is he, like 6'11" or something like that? He looks long. So actually, like, analytically, one of the most valuable players on this team, or just like even in the NBA. He's in the 80th percentile overall, and I tend to agree. I want to get Mo Gay on the court a little bit more. So I'm a big fan of his. And then Dominic Barlow here. Kind of one of these big men that he takes too many mid-range shots and he can't quite get to the rim. He's not like a crazy athlete or anything. He's not going to be a big-time defender. He's a young guy. I don't see a point personally in keeping him around, so I think I'm just going to open up the roster spot and save a little bit of money for this moment. But with that being said, let's move on to the cap space. What are we working with cap space-wise? For those of you that are new to the channel, there are 4 levels to the NBA salary cap. If you guys want a real in-depth explanation as to like how that all works and everything, go watch my, where the hell is it? Oh no, I went too far. Go watch my Phoenix Suns video. There it is right there. I go into much more detail about how these work. But for those of you that are new, here's a quick breakdown. First, the cap space line. We're almost $10 million away from that right now. When that hits 0, you can only re-sign players from your own team to anything more than a minimum contract. Anybody coming from anywhere else, minimum deal. But there are exceptions to that, and we'll probably get to talk about those today, considering the cap space that we find ourselves with in this. So stay tuned for that. The luxury tax line, we're $43 million from that. When this number hits 0, then our team becomes much more expensive to run, just in general. Then we have the first and second aprons. These are newer to the NBA. These were put in place to stop star players from being traded quite so much and to bring a little bit more balance to the NBA. I think they've been great so far in the sense that it brings a lot more strategy to how you have to build rosters and how you build long-term rosters as well. I think it's interesting. I think it's bringing some balance to the league. Basically, when you get into these, the NBA is going to start to choke you out and say, hey, you can't make these trades. You can't sign these players. You can't do this. You can't do that. The only way you can go really is down from here. So if you're going to be in these aprons, you better be a contending team, right? Where you're like, this is the team. We can win a championship with this roster right here. And shout out for both the Thunder and the Pacers for not even crossing the luxury tax line this year and being in the finals. I don't know when this video will come out and where we're at in the finals at that point, but wow, shout out to them. I watched the first game last night. Tyrese Halliburton, man. Crazy. We're not here to talk about that right now. So I don't see why we should find ourselves even in the luxury tax by the end of this, and I don't think we probably should be, considering where this team kind of was finishing last year, but we'll make it our goal to avoid the luxury tax this year if we can. And then draft pick wise, we actually have 2 first-round picks this year in a pretty loaded draft class compared to other years. You know, I've done quite few draft classes professionally now, like as a scout, and I think it's this one's pretty deep. This one's pretty special. There's a lot of prospects here where I'm like, this is going to be an easy development to turn you into like a solid NBA player. I'm not saying everyone becomes a star. I do think there's 4 stars in this class like right away, which I think is pretty nuts. That just doesn't happen, but we've got some things to be excited about with these picks, so I want to use both of these for sure, and we've got the roster space. Going forward, we don't have a lot of access to our own draft picks because of the like DeJounte Murray trade. The Spurs have a lot of those, so that's unfortunate. We do have access to some picks going forward, but I don't want to trade any of these just in case things get rough. So let's start talking about strategy then, right? Because where are we going with this team? We've just been in the middle for so long, and here's what I want to do. It's hard to find players as good as Trae Young, right? I think we all understand that. He's a really, really good player. As much as I wish they would change up his play style a little bit and let him work a little bit more off ball so that we can add like some different levels to him as a player, I think it would elevate him even more. It doesn't seem like we're going to necessarily get that, but nonetheless, he's a super talented guy, and I want to try my best to win some basketball games with him and figure out if we've got something brewing here as a team long term. So I want to try to win some games next year. I'm not going all out necessarily, but I want to try to put a more competent roster together, especially on the defensive end. You see here, some of our top paid guys are some of the worst defenders out there, and this team has struggled defensively for so long. So we've got to get some more defense on the court. We also need some supplementary scoring outside of Trae. We're going to hope that Jalen Johnson being back is going to help. But even then, he's not the most efficient, and then we're relying a lot on Shai, who's only in his second season, so we got to find some more scoring and stuff in order to make that happen, and free agency will help us out a little bit. But overall, we've got some work to do. So I want this team to be competitive. I want it to be a playoff team next year because the East should be pretty wide open next year. Let's try to be competitive. I want to see where we can go with things. But with all that being said, let's get into the trade portion of the video. And that brings us back here to Fanspo. Fanspo, for those of you that don't know, is this really, really cool website where you can do a bunch of like mock trades, mock drafts, things like that. It's got a bunch of cool tools and resources. I'm not sponsored. I just like to shout them out because I think it's a fun tool for people to use. But before we do the trades, did you just skip the last like 15 minutes of the video? You're a hoe just like your nana. Don't ask why I know your nana's a hoe, but I know your nana's a hoe. But seriously, go watch the last like 15 minutes. You just missed all the context of what we're doing in this video. And I know I'm going to get a comment from at least like 8 of you being like, EVC, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Well, guess what, dum-dum? Because you got the attention span of like a French snail. You didn't decide to watch. You didn't learn anything. But anyway, now that you know to go back and watch that, because I know 55% of you didn't, we need to make some trades. We have 5 open roster spots right now. 2 of them are going to be taken up by rookies, but we have our own free agents to think about as well. And there's a couple things to keep in mind. Clint Capella is a thing, which we could help him with a sign and trade. There's also Karis LeVert, Larry Nance. I really like Karis LeVert. They got him in a trade this last year. He had a really good season. When he came back from the, I should pull up the numbers so you can actually like take a look at Karis LeVert as a whole. So this is dunks and threes for those of you unfamiliar. Take a look at it. You can see the line right here in his performance. Like, was having a pretty good year with Cleveland, dips off quite a bit, and then he gets traded and you start to see him kind of go back up again. And along with kind of the shooting numbers as well, he's just like a nice offensive force. He can handle the rock a little bit. We need another guy that can do that on this team because right now it's just Trae and a little bit of Jalen. So we need him at the very least on our team next year. And like, we traded for him, so like we might as well keep him around. We got to give him a new deal. So having Karis on the team is just going to be a nice one in and of itself. And honestly, he became a pretty solid defender last year in Cleveland, so that's a helpful one. Clint Capella. We're probably going to try to help facilitate a sign and trade with Clint because a lot of teams don't have cap space, and he could just get like a mid-level exception or something like that, but we might want to explore a sign and trade to see if there's like an easy avenue for him to end up somewhere, because if we can benefit from that, then we might as well get something for him. But otherwise, I don't think I need Larry Nance particularly. I don't mind Larry Nance, but I don't need to hold a spot for him. So maybe the first thing we do is explore Clint Capella. Is there a team out there that could use like a sign and trade for him? The problem with the sign and trade, right, is whatever team takes him, and presumably it's a team trying to win basketball games, is they're going to get hard capped at the first apron, which is this line right here if they do so. That's how receiving a player via sign and trade works. So what team could we potentially trade him to that can stop at the first apron, but still might want Clint Capella because they're like trying to win some games? I think about the Lakers immediately, but they're so close to the first apron already. And yes, we would probably take something back, but I don't exactly know like what we would want from them. Are we talking like a Gabe Vincent or something like that? I suppose we could, because here's the thing: if they, I have to think this through right now, right? If the Lakers trade us, let's just kind of mock this out quick. So if the Lakers went and got Clint Capella from us, let's just sign him to some sort of deal, right? I'm pretty sure you have to give him at least like 3 years when you do a sign and trade. So let's just say he got like even $8 million, right? 8, 1 2 3 1 2 3 right here. So we give him 8. I'm just throwing out kind of a number right now to work with. So there's $8 million to Clint Capella that we've now given him. Let's just say we traded him over there, right? We traded him to the Lakers. Just work with me for a second on numbers. We take back Gabe Vincent, right? For sign and trade purposes, this should still work. This deal should work. There we go. Very cool. By the way, when you do a sign and trade, I don't always bring this up in other videos because I try not to get too detailed in my videos because I don't want to turn people off completely from all the numbers. When you do a sign and trade, this player's only worth half in terms of salary matching. So he was technically only worth $4 million for the trade, but he costs $8 million to the Lakers still. So sign and trade over there. So we've saved them about $3-ish million, but now they're hard capped at the first apron. They wouldn't be able to go get a center without using some form of exception that would cap them here as well. Because if we let's just mock this out again, right? So let's say they wanted to go get a center and they're here, right? They have like some exceptions to use, but again, you're going to get hard capped at a certain place. So you only have about $4 million to work with anyway, right? So that means that the best case scenario for them, if they're going to get hard capped regardless, unless they're just going to execute like an actual trade for a center, which they very well could do, but Clint Capella is kind of the run, jump, and dunk center that you're looking for. He's going to block some shots. It's going to be tough. Is it worth doing that, or do we think that they're going to try to just trade for a center that's on a standard contract already? That's the other option, right? Who is that center, though? I don't exactly know. Like, I can't imagine the Mavericks are giving away any of their centers to them because I just don't know what they would get back that's, like, all that valuable or whatever. I feel like this isn't, like, such a bad call. Like, I feel like it isn't. And what would we be getting out of this? Like, let's just say we took on like a Gabe Vincent, right? So that gives them, and let's execute this one more time, right? So we take back Gabe Vincent. We need another point guard on the team potentially anyway, because we only got one on the roster. Like Kobe Buffkin's more so a 2, if I'm being honest with you. Like, I don't trust him with the basketball at all. He's kind of a Cason Wallace type of guy. So this trade right here, like that works or whatever. The Lakers, in this sense, free up about $3-ish more million that they can use to fill out the rest of their roster, which they've already got a pretty good amount of people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so they have 12 already, and they're still about $8 million away from the first apron. So we've helped them out there. They got to give us like a little bit something else, though, for taking Gabe Vincent off their hands. Do I want a 3rd draft pick? Not necessarily, and they probably wouldn't mind having that pick as well. Do we get a protected first from that? There's no way. Like, there's no way we get that from Clint Capella. I like Clint, but I don't think he's worth that much necessarily. So do we get, like, even, like, heavily protected or something? Potentially, because again, like, we're not bringing Clint Capella back, so we don't have a ton of leverage in this conversation anyway. So I have to wonder if they'll give us like a swap or something. Is that the way to go about doing this? That's probably not worth it to us because you have to presume the Lakers will probably be good as long as Luka's here. I do all this stuff live and think through it live for a reason, y'all, just so that we can kind of go through and actually think through the whole process or whatever out loud and you can hear my thoughts. This in and of itself, and maybe you just throw in this 2nd round pick, because like you already got like some guys that are on like these pretty cheap deals, and we did free up a little bit more space for you to sign some minimum contracts. So just honestly, just give us this extra draft pick. I can go get somebody else to kind of throw on this team as a young guy that's kind of cheap, and I think that that's fine. Again, we have to remember that Clint, like, we don't have much leverage in this anyway, so am I down to take on Gabe Vincent? Sure, for a year. He played pretty well, actually, at the end of last season. We get an extra point guard. It's only a year. That's the other thing with this team. I don't want to take on like extra long-term money if I don't have to, because if things really don't go well this year, maybe it is time to trade Trey, and so you don't want to be caught in a bad situation, right? So Gabe Vincent would only be for the year, right? I think that that's fine. We take him on, make him the backup point guard because we need one, and then we get an extra draft pick this year too that they just don't necessarily need. I think that that's fine. I think that that's fine. So let's add Gabe to the team. It's a little bit expensive to do so, but I'm going to try to save us some money elsewhere. And so what pick did we get? It's the Lakers pick, right? Yeah, it's the Lakers 2025 second round pick. So we now have pick 55. We have 3 roster spots left after that. That's interesting. Okay. The other thing I wouldn't mind doing... I'm trying to think. I want to figure out a way to maybe move Terrence Mann if I can. So there's where Gabe goes. That's fine. We have Karis LeVert. How are we doing scoring-wise on this team? Because Karis LeVert's going to come in somehow, some way. Maybe I'll move Terrence over here. I'll move Karis LeVert to right here, just for visualization purposes. We know he'll be on the team. So we've got that. That's good. We've got another scorer in Karis. We've got Johnson. We've got Trey. It'd be nice if we had one more scorer, but then you risk bringing on another not-so-great defender. But I mean, like, Terrence isn't a great defender anyway, so is it worth it to just try to turn Terrence Mann into an offensive player for us? Like, one extra ball handler? I don't know. I'm even going back to this trade, wondering if I want to take back, like, Gabe Vincent or if I want to take back someone else, but they probably don't agree to it at all if we don't. So is that really a deal I want to do? Let me think about it. I think this is the move I want to stick with now that I've thought about it. Like, Clint's going to want to go to a contending team most likely anyway. That seems to be kind of where his interests align right now. So maybe you could say he'd get exceptions elsewhere, but is what it is. I don't think I'm going to trade Terrence Mann. I did have a thought that I just kind of want to draw out for you guys as I was kind of thinking through options. I'm like, we could try to bring in like a Colin Sexton for a year. So it'd be like having another not as good Trae Young out there, right? Just a little Energizer bunny that can score a shit ton of points, not very good defensively. If you're curious, here's what Colin Sexton numbers look like. 87th percentile offensively, 10th percentile defensively, and that's probably pretty accurate. He's a pretty good amount of money. I'm like, I can probably draw out a trade, and I'm just going to take him off for the time being, where we work with the Spurs, and we would somehow move Terrence Mann over to the Spurs for like a Keldon Johnson over here to the Jazz, and we would take Colin Sexton, something around that framework, because I think Terrence Mann being kind of just like an average role player, probably better for the Spurs right now, who are trying to be a little bit more competitive. Keldon Johnson doesn't quite fit on this team at this point. The Jazz want to take a stab at any young player, especially at the forward spot, so Keldon fits that. We get Colin Sexton because they're probably trying to trade him at this point anyway. So we could do something like that. I'm not sure I want to take on that money and another not as good defender. We just had so many defensive problems last year, and like I'd rather just kind of play Gabe Vincent, who's a pretty good defender, right? Like, I feel like we're gonna be okay offensively at this point. Just between you got Trey, hopefully Okongwu will continue to be solid there. We've got some solid like offensive role players and stuff, and like Karis can get buckets. Trey just generates so much in and of itself. So I think I'm going to be okay on this deal. I think I'll just hold on to Terrence, but I wouldn't mind moving and trying to get one more like wing defender via trade. And I had a thought about that as well as I was thinking through the other deal. The Suns need to get cheaper and younger. That's kind of what they're trying to do, right? While still being competitive. Here's what they can do. They can release Cody Martin if they want to and save themselves some money. Or I can give you something for Cody Martin and I can use him, because if you go and look at Cody Martin right here, really, really good defensively, not as big time offensively, but he was also in some crappy situations in Charlotte and Phoenix this last season. I'm not saying he's going to be a good offensive player, but if we just need another defender out there for one season, I can kind of get behind that. And so here's what I'm thinking. They have to fill up their roster somehow, some way. And so they might as well get a young player that can get the chance to do a little bit something for them. They could use some guard help once KD is gone. Maybe Booker's gone as well after Kevin Durant is gone, because I just presume that'll happen. There's no incentive for him to be there anymore. So we would send Kobe Buffkin over here. And I know, Hawks fans, I know. You've only seen 27 games of him. If you think you know what he is, you're dumb. I'm sorry, you're dumb. Go look in the mirror, you're dumb. And then you get on the keyboard and you go, AVC, how dare you trade my Kobe Buffkin? Well, I'll cry about it. I just don't care. I would like Cody Martin back. I can take the salary from you. I can save you a bit of money here. I think that that's more than cool. I'll take him back, and yeah, I like that because, again, it's a cheap guy to fill out their roster. They need young guys like this anyway. Save some cash. They could save a little bit more by getting Cody, but this way you get a young guy as well. I think you just do this trade right here, and we're happy about that. I don't have time to wait for Kobe Buffkin, and his skill set that the little bit we've seen isn't going to pertain to us right now anyway. So let's change this to Cody Martin. We now have him on the depth chart to do whatever it is that we want to do with him. At least we've got some more defenders out there. We're raising our number right now, right? We're getting some defensive players out there. We could throw out like a mean defensive lineup of like, let's just say Karis LeVert, Dyson Daniels, Cody Martin. You could throw Mo Gay out there with Jalen Johnson. Now we got a little defensive lineup. We're probably not actually going to go to that very often, but maybe you want to, because you could have some all right scoring with that still with Karis out there. But anyway, that's all I really want to do for trades. We've got this extra draft pick now to use, and I think that that's cool. We can get a cheap guy on the back end of things here that maybe could turn into something, because like I said, if this season doesn't go well, then we maybe have to enter a rebuild with Risa Shea, Dyson, and Jalen kind of being the center points of it, which isn't a phenomenal start, but not a bad start either. So why not just take another young guy? I think that that's fine. We've got some other vets on this team anyway. So with that being said, let's move on to the draft. Alrighty, y'all, that brings us back here to the Fanspo Mocked Draft Simulator. Very, very cool tool. I think VJ Edgecombe just went 8 in this. I was about to say this is a really cool tool to kind of help bring some realism to things, but you know what? Every once in a while, something like that's going to happen in the mock draft. So shout out the Brooklyn Nets who lucked out. Good for you guys. That's awesome. So we've got the 13th pick on here, and what are we looking for, right? Well, we need to take a look at the team right now. We are missing some depth here at center, that's for sure. We've got some center issues right now. We've only got one big man on the roster, and in theory we're coming out of this draft with a completed roster, right? Because we've got 3 draft picks. We wouldn't have to sign like the 55th overall pick or something, but and maybe that'll happen, but I want to at least find a big man here. The other pick we have is pick 22, which there should be some big men around there, but there's also some here. I see Asa Newell, who, despite being labeled as a power forward, played center in college, and you'll be like, have you seen? No, he didn't. Yes, he did. I've said it so many times on this channel. Him in the Georgia system that he was in, they played 2 centers. They played what's called like a mirror offense, when if you go one way, you do one thing. If you go one way, they do the other. So there's basically 2 2s and 2 5s on the court as well, and that's just what they did. It was stupid, but they did it. So we could go with him. He's a rim runner. Like, he's really good at that. Trey's loves people like that, run, jump, and dunk type guys. Hopefully he could block some shots. He'll play fast. We could go and try to build a really fast team because we've got some interesting options that we can kind of do that with here, and I think that could be kind of cool. You also have Derek Queen, who's much more of like a skill big. Doesn't really do much if he doesn't have the basketball. He's an okay rebounder. He's a really hard guy to kind of build a team around. He'd like the ball, and he's just not going to get to do that on this team, so I kind of want to avoid him. We could also go Cedric Coward here. I feel like we've got like a lot of people that can kind of space the floor like that though, so I'm not like completely sold on going for someone like him. We could just go and try to find some more bigs or something like that. Like, we could just go like 2 bigs or something in this draft, and maybe we'll find something else later at like the 22nd pick or something. But I personally like the Asa Newell pick. I think he'll benefit Trey Young, and regardless, we are trying to win some games this year. I think that'd be a solid pick for them. I know that this doesn't really get mocked out much this way. I don't know who, like, in mock drafts people are picking anymore. I try not to watch those or listen to them at all, just because I feel like it influences my brain too much when I'm like actually doing this stuff. I'm like, well, people think this. I'm like, these people don't know shit, at least compared to me. And I'm sorry for the narcissism, but it's true. What do I want to do with this pick? I know somebody's screaming at me to pick somebody on their screen right now, and they're like, oh my god, ABC, who are you gonna pick? I don't know, bitch. I'm trying to figure it out. Just give me a second. Asa seems like an obvious one. McNeely could be like a spacer for us, but we have so many other things filled out. I think I just want to keep this simple and use my better judgment and go with Asa Newell here. It gets us another big man, a little bit more size. Again, I get a rim runner for Trey. He can do the pick and roll with me all day or just cut back door. Maybe eventually can be a floor spacer. We think that that's maybe in his wheelhouse. So let's take Asa Newell with the 13th pick. Asa Newell, he would get about this much money for 4 seasons. That's not the right place to put that. I put it there. There we go. And now I got Asa Newell right there. Awesome. We got a big man. Let's move on. We have pick number 22 now. What do we want to get with this one? I could take another guard. I could get a wing. Okay. We got some options here. There would have been some other big men available. Reynaud could have been kind of interesting, but we got our big. We weren't sure what was going to be available. Walter Clayton is interesting because he doesn't always need to have the basketball in his hands, but I think I'm pretty good at guard. We do have a couple other wings here that I think are interesting. Will Riley, if we wanted more of a long-term approach, has shown he can put the ball on the floor a little bit, and I think we'd be doing him a bit of a disservice developmentally, bringing him onto this team because he'd never get to dribble the basketball, right? Because Karras is going to do it, Dyson will do it a little bit, Jalen will do it, and Trey's going to do it a lot. Even sometimes we hope Ricochet, because he's our primary development focus right now. So that's when I look at Rasheer Fleming. Rasheer Fleming, I know a lot of people really like him as a prospect because he dunks the ball a ton and he shoots a lot of threes and he shoots the three well. He's 6'9", he's a big body. Some people criticize him for not like having any moves with the basketball. I'm like, well, he's just not an on-ball type of player. We don't want everyone to be an on-ball type of player because everybody can't have the basketball. He's really good without the basketball. He kind of just creates his own space and finds places to go on the court. Again, kind of another lob threat, maybe a little bit more ready to play right away. I think there could be some really interesting lineups actually with him and Jalen Johnson kind of playing a forward, like a double forward lineup with Trae Young. You could really get out and run and have a ton of spacing. Like you could run that with like Ricochet and Daniels as well. I think that could be kind of cool actually, and a little bit different. I like that, and that would free us up to maybe move Niang at some point if we really wanted to. I'm holding him onto the team for now just because it's nice to have a guy that can shoot like that, and he's only on a 1 year anyway, so I don't really care. So just looking through to see if I'm missing anything else. Danny Wolf could be interesting. Penda could be interesting, but I think what I want to do is I just want to take Rasheer Fleming here and kind of keep it simple. Mr. Rasheer Fleming, we're going to give you that much money for 4 seasons. I'm just going to throw him here for now. You can mess around with the depth chart as you would, but I like him there. So we have a lot of size on this team at different positions, like between Vit, Karras, Dyson are all pretty big. Ricochet's a big dude. These guys aren't necessarily... but you got Jalen, like Niang, Gay, Fleming. Mo Gay can also play some big man for us. And honestly, you should probably think of him more so is that I know he's technically a forward, but like he doesn't shoot the basketball like at all. So let's think of him more so over there. And I do want him on the basketball court more. I think he's just such a high energy, high impact player. So if you really wanted to tell me like you do something like this, I don't really care. Yeah, you can do something like that. I just don't care. But now, last roster spot. Spot 15. This could be one where we kind of draft and stash somebody. That doesn't happen a ton nowadays, and the reason for that typically is teams don't have the luxury of having cap space like we do. And so they usually want to use their second round picks because they're cheap contracts to kind of fill out the back end of their roster, right? And looking at where we're at right now and knowing how much Caris LeVert's probably going to get in money, I probably do want to have one extra cheap guy, so I think I will use this pick on someone. What position do we want is the question. We could maybe use another guard or something, but at this spot you can't be too picky. And honestly, I wonder if Fanspo even has guys in here that like you can actually like take. Because Fanspo doesn't always update and put like actual people in here that are still in the draft, and that's a little bit annoying, right? Because like are all of these guys even in it? Like I don't think like Condon's even like in this class anymore if I remember correctly. So that's kind of an interesting one. Do we have to go off of Fanspo to figure out somebody that we could take? Let me get a little creative here. It doesn't look like they have Ryan Nembhard on here, and that'd be kind of like a late second round point guard that we could go after. So I think I'm going to go with Ryan Nembhard here. For those of you that don't know, like Gonzaga guy, like led the nation in assists, like I believe he's related to Andrew, and yeah, pretty solid defensive player as well. So I say we go with him. So let's add Ryan Nembhard to the team. He would only cost us about this much money. Give him a nice little 4 year. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. But the work is not done. We still have to go sign Karis LeVert. So let's move on to free agency and talk about that. Alrighty, so this free agency is going to be pretty simple. It's just Karis LeVert, right? The roster's full at this point. We know he's going to be on the team. It's just how much are we going to give him? I think all things considered with Karis LeVert, he's been kind of buried in rotations. He's had good games. These middle-level players are always so hard to value. He's not quite like the super six-man territory, but he's pretty damn good. I have to imagine like he's getting more than a mid-level exception, because I think a lot of teams are going to throw their mid-level exception at him, which is kind of like that $12-ish million range for a couple years. So I think we have to offer more than that, and we can offer more because we have his bird rights. So that's how we're able to offer more, even though we're over the cap. So what I think we do is we give him, like, we're at 17 million before the luxury cap. So I say we offer him 16, $1, 2, 3 million. What do we want to give him, a 3-year? I think that's more than fine. We give him $16 million, 3 years, and we can, I gave him not enough zeros in this. That would have been a bad accounting error. And look at that. This right here is your 2025-2026 Atlanta Hawks team. Let's recap everything that we did. We no longer have these draft picks, by the way, but we're trying to win some basketball games next year. We really are. We want to see what this core can do in kind of their second year. We really emphasize trying to get some more defensive players out here. So how did we do that? We made sure we went and got guys like Cody Martin. We're going to give Mo Gay a chance to play a little bit more. We actually went and got a backup point guard that is a bit more defensive oriented in Gabe Vincent. We drafted guys in like Rasheer Fleming, Asa Newell, and Ryan Nembhard. All have some solid defensive potential, so we'll see what they can do. But overall, we've got some scoring behind Trey. We hope between Karis LeVert, Jalen Johnson, and him, we're going to hope Risa Shea takes a chance to elevate his game a little bit more. We're going to let Big O play some center, but we've got a couple other interesting center options as well. This isn't like the greatest team in the world, but we have to see if this core can do anything. Otherwise, we kind of have to make a decision after this year if we're going to move on from Trae Young or not. And so it could very well be like halfway through this year that this team isn't going very well, and then maybe you have to trade him or something. I think that's extremely possible, but I want to give this team a shot and see what they can do. So we're trying to support Trey and the core group of guys as much as we can, and that's what we're going to try to do. But as always, y'all, I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. Go leave me a comment down below. Try to keep it collaborative, as we always say. Don't leave me any brain dead comments. I just don't have time for that shit. It's so annoying. But anyway, let's move on to the comments of the video. Alrighty, y'all. Comment of the video is coming from the Maxime Reynaud video we did, kind of breaking down and scouting him. You guys were really excited about that one. You'll notice a lot of Merry Christmas comments in here. You'll have to go watch to figure out why that is. It's really, really funny. But I wanted to shout out this one in particular from Nova Legion that said, when an AVC video drops, it's like Christmas morning. He threw in the Merry there. I love that. There was a lot of just really nice ones in here about people saying, like, yeah, I've really helped kind of get them into the draft and everything. So I'm glad. Thank you guys very much for being on this journey with me. As always, if you want access to the ideal offseason spreadsheet, all you have to do is go join the Discord and then go to the announcements channel and download it there for free. Have some fun with it, play around. Let me know your thoughts down below, because I'm down to hear what your thoughts are for the Hawks. But seriously, I appreciate you guys and hope you're having a good week. Thanks so much. Bye.